Anger is widely misunderstood. We're taught it's dangerous to be hidden or erased. Yet Torah and our sages never ask us to be emotionless. They understand that anger is still a part of being human. Even God becomes angry, but not randomly. It rises when a covenant is broken, when a relationship is violated. We feel anger when something sacred, such as truth, loyalty, justice, or respect, is betrayed. The danger is not the feeling, but what follows. Untended anger can burn through a life. Tended wisely, it becomes a sacred flame, clarity, and courage to repair what's broken. Anger rarely knocks, it bursts in. Sometimes it comes from fear, sometimes it comes from grief, or sometimes from love. The question is not whether we should feel anger, but what we will do with it. The rabbis of the Talmud understood this well. In Brachot 5b, they write, if a person feels anger rising within him or her or they, let them know that the evil inclination seeks to rule over. But if mastery happens, it becomes greater than one who dreams a dream and interprets it. To master anger does not mean to suppress it. The Hebrew word moshel, which is used in the Talmudic text, to rule, means to guide. The Talmud's image is not of someone choking down emotion, but of a rider steering a strong horse. Anger as force, directed wisely, it carries us far. Unchecked, it tramples everything in its path. Now, modern psychology echoes that. Researcher Brené Brown calls anger, I quote, an emotion that points to where our boundaries are being crossed or our values threatened. A powerful catalyst for change when harnessed with clarity and compassion. Numbing anger or pretending it isn't there only makes it leak out elsewhere. As resentment, as despair. The goal is not to erupt, but to inquire. What is this anger protecting? What value is it exposing? At questioning that anger, questioning it, examining it, learning to observe. That's so difficult when feeling emotion, to still be feeling it, yet at the same time bring that observer self in so one can feel and observe at the same time. That question turns emotion into a teacher. When we name what lies beneath, betrayed trust, moral outrage, wounded love, we act from purpose instead of pain. And Brown calls this, quote, transforming anger into boundary clarity. The rabbis would call it tikkun hamidot, repair of the soul's traits. Long before modern research, the Kabbalists, specifically Chassidut, specifically Hasidic thought, explores the hidden holiness of anger. Rabbi Yehuda Leiner of Ishbitzer, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, I think I'm going to stop reading the Ishbitzer for a bit. I've been bringing up the Ishbitzer about every other week. Maybe I'll move on to the Noam Elimelech. I'll give you a little bit of a preview of coming attractions in the next weeks. So in his text, Beit Yaakov, he writes that anger can arise from a wounded ego or from the soul's perception of disorder in the world. Quote, if it arises from the self, it darkens. If from the desire for repair, it enlightens. The Ishbitzer does not ask us to be calm all the time. He asks us to discern. When anger comes, ask, what truth is this fire pointing to? If the answer is pride, they insulted me, cool down. If the answer is conscious, something is unjust, let the fire become light. Moral life requires heat. The prophets burned with exploitation and hypocrisy. Their fire was not cruelty but care, the refusal to look away. And our task is not to extinguish passion, but to refine it, to turn anger from smoke into flame that opens the way to our next Hasidic master, Nachman of Bratslav, who explains the shift as an expansion of the heart itself. Rebbe Nachman teaches that anger erupts when the vessel of the heart is too small to contain the light that floods in. It's a surge that comes into the heart, and it's not evil in and of itself. It's just a surge of emotion, an overflow of energy. He says in Likutei Moharan, I translate again, when a person broadens the heart, the storm of anger subsides and becomes wind that lifts the flame upward. When anger comes in, make space for it. Let the air come in. That's what lets the flame go that direction. When it's compact, it just bursts out and creates a mess all over the place. But instead, open that up. Give it air. Let it breathe. The work then is not to douse the fire, but to enlarge the vessel, enlarge the heart. How do we do that? We breathe. We pray. These are the things. Rabbi Nachman has this wonderful meditative practice. You go out in the woods when you're alone, and you just cry out all your emotions. Just cry it out until you're empty. It'll probably take a few years, but cry out until you're empty. And that lets the heart grow wide enough to hold strong feeling without shattering. Picture someone confronting injustice. If the heart is narrow, anger consumes. If the heart is wide, anger fuels courage and compassion. The difference is in the capacity. Spiritual practice, prayer, breath, meditation, widens the heart so it can hold fire without burning down the house. And cultivating that capacity through those means, through those spiritual practices, turns anger into a moral instrument rather than a moral failure. So what do we do when we feel anger arise? Essentially, Brene Brown and the Hasidic rabbis agree to some degree. They urge curiosity, examination, discernment before reaction. When the heat comes, just ask that question, what is going on here? So you're not reactive. Between stimulus and response, I love to quote this Viktor Frankl. I think no more Viktor Frankl for a few weeks either. Between stimulus and response, there is space, and in that space lies our freedom. Jewish tradition calls that space erech apayim, being slow to anger, literally long of breath. The rabbis envisioned God's patience as breath. Not suppressed wrath, but a sacred pause that allows mercy to enter. To be erech apayim is to inhale the world's disorder, hold it in compassion, and exhale it in wisdom. It's the moment when the match is struck and we choose not to throw it. Bring that pause into daily life, and anger becomes not a chained reaction, but a choice. Anger doesn't unfold in grand dramas. It happens at home, at work, among friends, and let's admit it, probably most often among those we love the most, right? In the place where it feels safe. A careless word, a broken promise, a daily frustration, these are our tests. Respond harshly and we multiply pain. Listen to beneath that anger, to ours, but also to others. Create that pause for others' anger as well. And we uncover what matters most. Often the person we want to shout at, as I said, is the one we love most deeply. Anger then is not only a warning, but also a mirror. It shows where our hearts are alive. In relationships, anger is a signal something has gone wrong, and that connection needs repair. The same heat that could destroy can purify when brought to honesty, to the altar of honesty. To say, I'm angry because I care, reclaims anger as truth-telling. I'm angry because I love. Huh? That one's just hard to say and get your head around. I'm angry because I love. Communities are healed when they turn anger into dialogue rather than division. The sages teach that when people reconcile after deep anger, the place of connection becomes stronger than before. What was raw becomes refined. Transformation is not in forgetting the wound, but redeeming its energy. The Ishbitzer would call this the redemption of the spark within anger. Rebbe Nachman would call it the widening of the heart. Brene Brown would call it boundaries held with compassion. Different language, the same thing. Ultimately, the goal is shalom. I'm not talking about peace here, but calm that denies fire. Not that doesn't deny fire, but allows one to keep it in a way that doesn't damage. So that calm begins within, when the fire of the soul burns steadily rather than wildly. A candle's flame does not rage. A candle's a wonderful image of that inner mounting flame. Since we're talking about music, that's a Mahavishnu orchestra record, the inner mounting flame. John McLaughlin, I think, was engaging in, was it Hindu or Buddhist practice? Anybody know? In any case. Hindu? Okay, thank you. A candle's flame does not rage. It's that inner mounting flame. So it can light another candle without losing itself. That's what happens when anger is sanctified. Heaven hears every angry cry we utter. What matters is what follows, the pause, the breath, the prayer, the choice. And may we tend that fire within us so that it gives warmth, not smoke. May our anger serve our conscience, not our pride. And may we be slow to anger and quick to compassion. And may that same fire that once threatened to divide us become in time the light by which we see one another's faces. Ken Vihi Ratzon, may it be God's will.